So President Trump loves to use the stock market as a way to brag about his job in the White House. The best economy ever, right? So that combines with the boast of lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, about 3%. So now he uses both of those arguments as a way to say that, how dare you impeach me, right? How dare you impeach me when the economy is doing so great under my leadership? You have no choice but to vote for me in 2020 if you want a good economy, because the Democrats will destroy it. It's funny because before, during the Obama years, is when the economy started getting decent, right? And that continued into the Trump era, which you have, of course, the major signature legislation that Trump had was tax cuts for the rich, that, as I've shown in previous segments, haven't really done a whole lot except for make rich people even more rich. So now his arguments don't make a whole lot of sense when you look at some of the details. So let me give you the details. Axios recently reported that the S&P has actually increased. That's the S&P 500. It's one of the stock market indicators, has increased by about 42% under the Trump administration. So, okay, well, that's good for investors. It's good for people with 401ks, right? However, there's the issue that about half or less of all Americans have a 401k, right? And there's another half of Americans, presumably the ones that don't have 401ks, that work in low-wage jobs. So there's a lot of average Americans that are actually not reaping the benefits of Donald Trump's economy. Not even AT&T workers. You guys remember when the Trump tax cuts came into effect, you had AT&T coming out there and saying, well, because of these tax cuts, because we saved so much money, that now we are going to give our employees a $1,000 bonus. Okay. So now they said, we're doing really well. We're gonna give those bonuses. Now it's being reported that around 3,000 workers are being laid off, being fired after having to train foreign replacements. But hey, look, the stock market's doing better, right? And I've also done a lot of reports on these different, for example, Carrier laying people off, Harley Davidson laying people off, other companies that touted the Trump tax cuts laying people off. So is it really the best economy ever? Again, when half of all Americans work low-wage jobs and you have manufacturing that has continued to shrink, partly also because of the trade war with China that we are not in any position to really win on. And really, what does winning look like at this point? Because of the damage that has happened to the Midwest, to a lot of farmers, and to a lot of manufacturers. Again, the jobs that are replacing them, and we are in a job boom, happen to be low-wage service jobs, as we are now in a service-based economy in which wages, of course, are way too low to supplement people's middle-class lifestyle. So now, but you could still say, hey, the stock market's still doing better than ever. Well, you could say that, and it depends on the metric, right? So now Trump wants to prove that he's a better economic steward than anyone else based on the rise of the stock market during his term, which you can look at the facts. That's undeniable. You have had a 42% rise in the S&P 500. Now, you've also had a lot of strange dips in the stock market after some of Donald Trump's tweets, but have also rebounded. But let me go to an analysis here that shows that the gains under Trump for the stock market have actually lagged, or they actually do lag under former presidents George H.W. Bush and Barack Obama. Now, Barack Obama had the benefit of having a stock market crash at the end of George W. Bush's term that he had to rebound from. So financial crisis, and then you had a rebound of stocks. So stock market growth was actually even better under Obama, even though under Trump, we've had even more highs. So now, for me, I don't necessarily like to use the stock market as an indicator of economic growth. But if you're going to look at raw numbers, you're going to look at raw growth, well, then you would have to concede that George H.W. Bush and Barack Obama just kicked Trump's ass when it came to stock market growth. It's all in the numbers. It's facts. Now, If you want to look at that alone, like I said, Bush and Obama kicked his ass, but that's one. But there's another economic metric that Trump excels at, though, compared to Bush and Obama, and that's increasing poverty. So let me give you some examples of that, right? So now the poverty rate, according to a state analysis of U.S. Census Bureau county estimates that was released last month, says that the poverty rate actually grew in 30% of counties between 2016 and 2018. Now that is, again, 2016, Trump became president. 2018, Trump's still president. As a lot of Trump supporters love to point out, he's your president. Okay, well, he's your president. And in that time, the poverty rate grew in 30% of counties in the country. Now, the current poverty rate, by the way, is the percentage of people in households earning less than $25,750 for a family of four. I think that poverty threshold is actually BS because it should actually be higher, right? Because look, there are people making $30,000, $40,000 that still cannot survive. But anyway, most of the, and this is the ironic part about that analysis, most of the biggest increases of poverty were in both rural and southern areas. Now, there's two different counties that were looked at by Huffington Post, and that's Republican Carter County, Kentucky, right? So it's 97% white, votes solidly Republican. But you also had Democratic-controlled Bullitt County, Alabama. So both of them, respectively, are first and second when it comes to the increase of poverty in those counties. Now, in Bullitt, for example, the poverty rate went up about 10 points between 2016 and 2018 to 42.5%. Now, Bullock is minority, mostly populated by minorities, African Americans. So now the median income after inflation also dropped 18% to just $29,267. So that's Bullitt County, right? Now, Carter County also pretty terrible when it came to those numbers as well. So how about that economy, right? But hey, look, the stock market's doing really, really well. And I'm sure those increases will help Carter County and Bullitt County. Now, Carter County is really important that I mentioned AT&T back there because guess what? Guess what the main employer in that area is? AT&T. There's a call center, actually, a customer service center, and there's a meat processing plant. So those are the jobs if you live in Carter County. So yeah, the Trump economy, not so good for a lot of people, especially the poorest of the poor, and in southern rural states. Now, it's been pretty good for the rich, though. Again, we spent about $1.5 trillion in tax cuts for the very wealthy. These corporations got huge tax cuts and continue to have their loopholes. Their loopholes were not closed. However, loopholes were closed on the middle class. The SALT deduction has been eliminated, hurting people in, of course, New York and LA. Bit of a punishment for people living in the more, what's considered to be the more liberal states. So congratulations on that, right? So look, the Trump economy, again, not great, but I'm not going to let Obama slide as well, because let's be fair, right? Under President Obama, the rich also did really well, and yet the poor stagnated. And look, there's only so much that a president can do to influence jobs in the economy, right? And again, the signature legislation for Donald Trump was the tax cuts. But remember, that was also pushed through by the Republican Congress and then signed into law by Donald Trump. And so Congress does make a lot of those decisions. And look, and as far as it goes to Carter County, Kentucky, and Bullitt County, Alabama, some of those decisions are locally made as well. So let's be fair about that. Anyway, what we need to do is to have a better metric when it comes to jobs and economic performance. I say we look at the quality of jobs and not just how many jobs are created. Because again, those job numbers, as I've said before, are basically crap. You can't really tell a whole lot from them because they exclude so many different things. Again, they exclude the quality of the jobs, the pay of the jobs, as well as how many people have stopped looking for jobs because they have given up, because they can't find something that they're able to live off of in some of these areas. And so, yes, look at the quality, look at the worker pay. And when you do look at that, just like we had under Obama, we're also seeing a lot of service sector jobs that are low wage. You also have pay that is stagnant, benefits that are shrinking, increasing costs of healthcare that are eating up more people's paychecks. And so this is all happening while the rich pay a lower effective rate than the middle class. So that's a huge, huge problem. You are getting ripped off while Trump and his donors make even more money. So remember all these different factors when you see economic reports, and especially when you see Donald Trump, yelling about how great his economy is and why that shouldn't lead to him being, or why that should prevent him from being impeached. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.